Now we're live.
We are. We are on.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us today for our Facebook and Instagram Live. This is John, one of the mad scientists here at the Edgerton Explorer Center in Aurora, Nebraska. We're glad you're joining us. Today we are going to have some fun on Friday with food. So one of our summer camps, and actually the first summer camp I was able to teach for the Edgerton last year, was fruit carving ninjas. And so we're going to bring a couple of those skills here. Seemingly people have a little bit more time at home right now, and hopefully some of this produce. If you are going to do this, please make sure you wash your hands, because that will make the fruit able to be consumed, not only pretty, but able to be consumed, and you can wow your next dinner guests or Zoom meal guests with some fruit carving for your dinner table, or just having a fun, creative way to play with your food. So my hands are washed. I have gloves because I'm used to always wearing gloves when working with food, because I do that as well. So real quick, we're going to talk about sharpening our knife real briefly. I have a 16-inch chef knife with me today. It is my weapon of choice because I like the ergonomics of the handle. Depending on what you have in your house, don't be scared of a large blade knife. Sometimes it works really well. I will use this to cut baby carrots up even because it's easy to manipulate as opposed to a tiny little paring knife, which is meant for more detailed work when you're in the kitchen. So contrary to popular belief, this is not a sharpener. This is actually a hone. It is simply meant to straighten the microscopic edge of the blade when you run the knife over it. Depending on your knife, depends on your angle of incidence that you hold it against your hone. If you want to be safe and not cut yourself, prevent yourself from cutting yourself, you have the hilt of your sharpener, your hone, that is protecting your fingers. And if we look at this, the blade is not longer than my hone in the first place. So as long as I hold it at a stationary spot and come down, I don't have to worry about cutting my hand. Now some people hate that sound. I did hone my knife before I use it. So every now and then, depending on how you use your knife, you will have to use a sharpener, which can be a stone, or there's gadgets that are sharpeners, and then you use this in between when you're keeping that blade very straight and cutting the best. Sharp knives always work better. Every time I pick up a knife in the kitchen, whether it's at home or at the Leadership Center, I do run it over the hone. And you should not dishwash your nice kitchen knives. It damages the blade on the knife. So hand wash them carefully and then store them away dry. The other one we have with us today is a nice little paring knife because we're going to be doing some details when we go through our cutting. I have my cutting board, so I'm not marring up any surfaces. That's clean as well. We brought it in. So the first thing we're going to do today is work with 2 apples, and we're going to make a hopefully cute little owl. When you're doing fruit carving, you have to, like I spent a little bit of time in the grocery store picking out these exact 2 apples because I wanted them to be able to sit and be relatively upright. Sometimes the way apples grow, they're on a side more or whatever. So I picked these specifically for what we were going to be doing today. So this one sits really well without any cutting or manipulation. So we're going to have that as our base. This is going to be our owl's face. And I'm looking at it. This kind of has a pointy spot. So what we're going to do, and I'm going to try and do this away from me so you all can see it, is I'm going to be cutting off the flat disc-shaped spots that you see on an owl, predominantly indicated by the feathers. Their face is not as flat as it appears once it has feathers on it. So we're going to make those big, wide eyes. We're going to cut about a 50-cent piece area off for one eye, and then we're going to cut on the other side and do about the same. Now we're going to save these. Don't snack on them and put them away because they are going to go someplace else. Now, we don't have it with us today, but if you had a little carrot or something, you could make a little tiny beak and stick it on there. Eyes, You could use raisins. One thing that people that do a lot of fruit carvings use often are whole cloves. It's a very stronger spice. A lot of people have ground cloves. It's like cinnamon, nutmeg, and that family. Mace as well. And those will, you can stud it. It's called, you put the clove into the item, in this case an apple, and it will stick in there and look like little eyes. We don't have those along today, so I'm going to just make little indentations for his eyes. As this browns, as we all know, apples brown, and you can treat them with lemon juice. For our demonstration, because this isn't going to last very long, we are not going to treat our fruit carving with lemon juice today, but you could do that at home. Now, that is most of his face. And stick the little cloves or
Hi, Taylor.
raisins into its eyes, and then we're going to attach its head to the base of the owl.
Thanks for joining us, Taylor.
I took off the stem off the bottom one because that'll allow us to sit him together. And then I have a skewer. I'm going to kind of measure how long I have.
Hi, Liam. Hi, Reed. Happy Friday to you also.
I'm going to stick that in the stem area, and then I'm going to stick the bud end of the apple on top of there. And I just cracked my skewer, which happens, but it'll still hold my little owl. Now, I talked about these little pieces, and what we're going to do
Thanks,
is
Miley.
we are going to take, and you can use a toothpick or a short little skewer. Got a little tiny piece, it's about a 1/2 inch long. I'm going to stick it through my wing so I don't see most of it. Got to clean it up a little bit. So now it's flush on the flesh side of the apple. The skin is going to go on the skin of the apple, and we're going to push our little wing on. And then I'm going to get another piece of skewer or toothpick. Do the exact same thing. Push it into our apple and give him his other wing. Now there are food safe markers out there. Do not use Crayola, even though they're washable, to decorate your food if you intend on eating it. And it's always safe to do that. And so there's our cute little owl, and pretty simple, 2 apples, this case 2 cuts. And we have our little owl that is pretty ready to go sit somewhere on somebody's table. Like I said, you could treat it with lemon juice or citric acid to keep the fruit from browning.
Yeah, we thought that Doc needed a little hairdo. His pineapple head looks good.
So our next one for this is going to be our dolphin. So I have a banana. Everybody's been eating lots of bananas. So what I'm going to do is my dolphin is going to be coming out of the water or the table or the food display. So I'm going to pick where I kind of think he's going to be balanced, because if he's too nose heavy, he's going to tip over. So I have to cut him that he looks like he's jumping out or cresting out of the water. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Now if you get it wrong, you can take another small cut. But the more you cut. So I got him, and he's a little nose heavy on there. So I was a little wrong, so I'm going to change my angle slightly. So I took a little wedge off of him, and now he sits up. So it's not finished. And Nicole, would you maybe be able to find me a black or dark marker?
Yes.
So now I just cut down the stem to where it meets the actual banana. And if you have a grape, you can go ahead and put this in your little dolphin's mouth. And if it doesn't want to hold onto the grape nicely, you can trim out a little bit of the inside of the stem to make it a little wider for you. And that's basically it for that part of it. Now, if you're really creative, you can do a dolphin the other way, but he's far harder. But this one is a very cute, very simple, again, 2 cuts. One for the base. I had to do another one because my angle wasn't right. And one for the mouth. And then because we're not going to eat the peel, I'm just using a regular marker. But again, if you're coloring something, and then you give them a little eyeball. Just that simple. So very easy and creative ways to safely play with your food and make it look fun. Maybe some ideas for parents out there. But these are 2 really simple ones to do. The next one is more complex. It requires a pineapple with a crown on it. Sometimes you can buy crownless pineapples. They taste the same, but part of the decoration of this one is going to be the crown. Okay? So we have to also be careful that we cut it, that the crown stays attached. If you are just going to eat it, you can easily just break this crown off. So we have to be careful not to do that today. I'm going to take my pineapple, lay him on his side. I'm going to guess. Now, when you cut like this, there's a good chance he wants to roll because he's not flat. And I want to be careful how I hold on to him so I don't hurt my hand or slip off of the pineapple. So I'm directly going to go down. I'm going to push. I'm holding over the top of the pineapple, so there's no chance of me cutting my hand. And we have a plastic table here as our demo table, which is going to wobble a little bit. Cut down into the pineapple, and I have to make careful cuts to get into that crown. And if you're a little person, you might need somebody to help you. Now I got the fruit cut, and I got to finish off cutting the crown now, because I don't want to rip it. So I just slice through it on the cutting board to make sure that it stays safe. Now, I have half a pineapple with a crown on, and I need a quarter of a pineapple. So I am going to do it again. Now I put the flat side down. It doesn't want to move. Take our little friends and set them up so they don't get wobbled around. And now I'm going to cut the pineapple into a quarter, so half of a half. Same thing, making sure I'm splitting it equally so I have part of this. Now, this will have one pineapple that can make 4 birds. And
Hi,
that's what we're
Sean.
making.
Thanks for joining us, Sean. We miss seeing you around here.
So now I'm going to set this other quarter off to the side as well, so I'm left with 1/4 of the pineapple. Some of the plumage, this will be the bird's tail, may fall out. And actually for prettiness, I'm going to pick this one. And that's with, I tell kids in our fruit carving class or camp that you have to look at the fruits. Certain fruits are better designed for what you have in mind. So now we have the core of the pineapple, the woody part we typically remove. So we're going to make a small cut about a 1/2 inch into the flesh of the pineapple. Just getting below that part, that woody part of the pineapple. Now I'm going to carefully slide my chef knife below it. And again, I don't have my hand on the other side where I can cut myself.
Hey, Owen.
And what we're going to do is we're going to slide forward, getting most of the woody part, but not all of it. So we're going to take off the very tip. That will be discarded because it's woody. Now, we don't want to cut all the woody part off because we're going to need this. And I'll stand this up so it'll be a little easier for you all to see as we do this. We're going to cut again a little more. I'm kind of making a little strip of the woody part, because what's going to happen is to make our bird's beak, it has to be bendable and be able to turn around. And so this one's a little thick, it doesn't want to slide, so I'm going to just take a minute slice, that's the word I was looking for. I always want to try to cut away from yourself if you have your fruit or produce up in the air. So now I can make a little loop. And I unfortunately dropped one of my grapes, so I only have one grape, so I'm going to steal the dolphin's grape. And what's going to happen is we're going to make this into the bird's eye when we're all said and done. Okay? So a grape can be kneaded, cherry, anything like that. You can do it without, and you still get the idea of the bird's head and beak when it's said and done, but having the fruit in its mouth. So now to finesse the bird, to make it more edible, is we are going to slice the pineapple vertically. So we're going to pick a spot right behind its head. The biggest thing is we don't want to cut through the pineapple rind. And so I'm cutting about 1/2-inch slices. I'm going down. I'm using just the tip of my knife. If you're more apt to use a paring knife, you can do that as well. Like I said, I'm just familiar with the chef knife. Do that. We're trying to make these equal distant, and I'm doing a little bit of a curve, a dish, because the outside of the pineapple is curved. Because obviously we want to eat as much of the pineapple as possible. I'm going to go all the way to the tail. Now the tricky part is I'm going to do 2 cuts now. I got to loosen these pineapple chunks. And since it's dished, now I could cut it just flat and it would be fine, but I'm going to cut at a little V and have my knife meet in the middle. So I'm going to start by the last slice, and you can feel the difficultness of the cutting when you're doing it. If it gets really hard, you're probably getting into the skin of the pineapple. Now I'm going to finish my other cut. It's a little tricky to show up in the air, all of you. Obviously doing it at home where you don't have to show an audience is easier. I'm going to actually be very dangerous and cut with my left hand. Just kidding. Not that dangerous. Just clunky. And the nice thing is, if you mess up on one bird, you got 3 other pieces to go to, unless you need 4 birds. Then you got to start over. So now, if I did it right, I can take all the pineapple pieces. That one's not quite loose, so I can give him a little push. Now he's loose. And you make a little back and forth pattern with them. Why? Because it's interesting.
Make it look like he has feathers.
Yep. So now I'm going to put the eye into the bird. I'm going to use my little skewer. You don't need very much, and that could be like where his little nostril is. And it is kind of challenging to get it into the back end of the bottom end of the pineapple. There we go. So then our little bird has its beak, his eye, his pretty feathers, which are the edible pieces of pineapple, and his pretty plumage of a tail when he's all done, and you have him set out. And whenever I've done these and people have been around, I'll have piles and piles of pineapple. The first pieces of pineapple that are always eaten are these. They don't taste any different, but that's what people want to eat. So there is our little birdie. He is all done. And if you want, some people say that they can kind of look like a Viking ship sometime if you don't do the head. So if you mess up, you just call it a ship and it has some decorations. That's the fun of fruit carving. You know, it's relatively inexpensive. It's fun to do. It's edible. So at the end, you have something fun to eat. So hopefully you will try these. Like I said, there's plenty of pineapple to eat.
And you really don't have to be a good sculptor, really. I mean, like
very
real
simple.
artist.
We're not carving. In our class, we typically do watermelon ships, which take us typically 2 days to do because our students have to plan them out and be a good architect. So that does take more time. And then, yes, there's people that make amazing fruit sculptures. But if you want to start out with the basics, these 3 are really simple to do and very easy to replicate with whatever you have at home, as long as you have 2 apples, a banana, and a pineapple bird. So our little class for today, we are still planning on having our summer classes or our summer camps. We're still monitoring the whole situation with COVID-19. So go take a look on our website for all of our cool camps, and we hope you can join us for that. And hope you enjoyed and have a great weekend. We'll see you on Monday at 2 o'clock.